Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's great to see folks.
Buenos días a todos. Es muy bueno verlos a todos el día de hoy.
Well, Commissioner, we already hit 100, so
Good
120.
morning. What a great way to start with 9:30 callers.
Uh, did I mute myself? No, we are excited to have Excel Linguistics with us this morning. So I'm going to turn it over to Julian for translation information.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this 9:30 call. This morning we have interpretation available in English and Spanish, so we're going to make this announcement to let you know how to select your language. In just a moment, you will see the globe at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you click on that globe, you can select your language. If you have joined from a cell phone or tablet, look for the three dots button on your screen next to the word more. From there, you will see interpretation as an option in the list to choose your language. An important reminder, everyone has to select a language and stay in that channel. Now, I will turn it over to Jimena to repeat that in Spanish.
Buenos días a todos. Bienvenidos a la llamada de las 9:30. Esta mañana tenemos servicios de interpretación en español. En un momento, usted verá que el icono de un globo aparece en la parte inferior de su pantalla. De ahí podrá seleccionar el idioma en el que quiere participar. Si usted se está uniendo a través de un celular o de una tableta, busque los tres puntitos junto a la palabra más o more, seleccione Language Interpretation y le aparecerá el menú de una lista de los idiomas a escoger. Nada más como recordatorio, independientemente del idioma que usted hable, es importante que todos escojan un canal y permanezcan en él. Gracias.
Thanks, Jimena. Okay, all set to go.
Thanks so much, Julian and Jimena. And just a quick announcement. Tonight, we have the 9:30 call in Espanol with host Harold and Paula and Neri. And they will be joined tonight by Representative Carlos Gonzalez from Springfield. And we'll put it's the same Zoom link. We can put the information in the chat. And then as folks know, tomorrow, we will be celebrating 5 years of the 9:30 call in Worcester. We're excited. We have close to 50 folks joining us tomorrow, according to the RSVP list. So we will be both in person and on Zoom. And we have, thanks to Edward Street, we have an owl camera, which we're excited to use. So we'll be able to pan the crowd while we are Zooming tomorrow. So we hope you can join us. We have Senator Robin Kennedy will be joining us live in person in Worcester. And then we have recorded messages from the governor, the secretary, Commissioner Kershaw, and legislators and many 9:30 callers. So hope to see everyone tomorrow. I'll put the link to the blog in the chat so you can see all the information. And Commissioner, we're so excited to have you here on the Commissioner Kershaw series once a month on the 9:30 call. And I'm going to remind me and you to speak slowly for interpretation. We're so excited that Excel Linguistics is with us this morning. So, Commissioner, now this is a little bit of a different scenario since there was not a board meeting last week. We know you have other updates to share with us. So I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you so much, Amy. Good morning, everyone, and happy 5th anniversary. I will have a chance to join you tomorrow for some of the celebration, but what a remarkable thing you have accomplished by creating the 9:30 call and creating community and bringing opportunity for people to connect and understand the state budget process, for the people at the state to understand what's happening in early education and care programs. And it's really been a remarkable asset to me as commissioner. coming back into this field after being in other state agencies and having this opportunity to be once a month in community, but also Amy, you and your team have created such a important venue for communication. And I've heard about it from so many program directors, all the way from what was happening during the height of COVID and how much they relied on you to share information that was changing and emerging every moment, to now as we grow and transform our field and have an opportunity for me to share the updates. For example, I'm going to today. And thank you to Harold and Paula for hosting the call tonight. Good luck with that as well. So we did not have a board meeting last week, and I am excited today to share a little bit about the Interagency Task Force on Early Education and Childcare. But first, I want to do a couple of other agency updates, some exciting things that are happening. First of all, I want to remind everyone that the C3 quarterly deadline for submitting your application is March 31st. Those quarterly deadlines are very important to us from a funding perspective. So I want to remind everyone to get their applications or certifications in for this quarter on March 31st or by March 31st. The other update I wanted to share, I'm pretty excited about, that we've been working with 3 regional partners, United Way, SEIU, and Family Services of Central Mass on a family child care foundations. We have heard a lot that the navigating the licensing process for a new family child care provider can be complicated. And that getting your business started at the same time that you are thinking about becoming licensed and marketing your services to new families. So I'm really excited that we're rolling out this new 20-week program that'll be designed to support family child care providers sort of in all aspects of coming into the family child care business. It is the largest growing sector for the child care field right now, and we are thrilled to be partnering. We have 2 information sessions coming up on March 25th and 27th. Eugenia has probably already put the information in the chat for everyone, as usual, way ahead of me. Yep. So please share that information. Please attend those sessions. And I really want to thank our partners and Janet Montoya, who is our family child care expert at EEC, who's been leading a lot of this work for us. So thank you so much. We also are going to be hosting a session on behavioral health resources. Again, a piece of feedback we hear a lot is about many kids in programs having challenging behaviors, and the need for our educators and our program directors to have access to behavioral health resources. So we are hosting an information session at 6 p.m. on April 17th. There goes Eugenia in the chat to share information about that. So you'll meet some of our growing behavioral health team who will be able to share some resources for you and your programs. Finally, we have regulations around childcare financial assistance changes out for public comment. And we are hosting, the public comment period is open now, and you can provide written public comment at your convenience. And we're also hosting a session, a virtual session, to provide public comment verbally, if you would like to do that, on April 3rd at 6 p.m. Eugenia also put that information in the chat for everyone.
And Commissioner, just so folks understand the process of kind of the regulation process. So public comment is a chance for folks to offer in writing, or it's great to have kind of an oral opportunity to share what you think about what the proposed regulations are. So it's a step in the process to allow for kind of a back and forth and feedback, so you can hear from the from people's. Do you want to say a little bit more about that if people are not as familiar?
Yeah, it's a great example of the of the benefit of the 9:30 call, again, where there's a sort of a two-way street that we're creating here, opportunity for us to hear from folks in the field, an opportunity to sort of share the public process, which can sometimes be kind of complicated and hard to understand. So many of the programs at the department, including our child care financial assistance, so that's our vouchers and contracts, are guided by regulations. And when we make changes to those regulations, we make edits to them and then we post them, and we're required to do a public comment period where we can hear from those who have opinions, are affected by changes to the regulations. These are actually some minor changes. We made very, very big changes to the child care financial assistance program 2 years ago, still in the process of implementing some of those. And this change was really driven by new legislation included in last year's budget. So there's a few sort of minor changes, some things that really include in our regulations, things that we already do. But the most meaningful change is increasing the initial eligibility for child care financial assistance from 50% of state median income to 85% of state median income. It's really important to know that that's a policy change and that the funding to support additional families comes through the budget process. So this is a policy shift. That the agency initial eligibility should now be at that higher income level, but it still requires additional appropriation from the legislature in order for us to fund families at higher income levels. So this public comment period will allow folks to provide comment, both written at any time or verbally or orally at the session on April 3rd, and we welcome your input and feedback.
And these regulations are different from the licensing regulations, which has a whole separate process. So just wanted to clarify that as well.
Right.
It's also a good example of when the legislature directs the department to do something, then the department has to take all that language, figure it out, figure out what the impact is, and then think about what it looks like for implementation.
Right. So much of what we do is governed by regulation. So childcare licensing is separate. Our residential program licensing separate. Background record check regulations are also separate. So this change is really around childcare financial assistance. And again, several years ago, we made a very significant set of reforms, and we are actually still in the process of implementing some of those changes. We issued policy advisory yesterday regarding one of those changes that we're going to be implementing, which is basically rolling back a COVID era change where provisional authorizations, which is available for families who are searching for work or appear to be eligible for child care financial assistance, but may not have all their documentation. During COVID, greater flexibilities were created around provisional to create a 26-week period provisional authorization. And we are now in the process of implementing, really going back to pre-COVID, which is to limit that provisional authorization to 12 weeks, which is what had always been and what is now in our policy here. So great. And Eugenia just put a post in the chat. That policy will be effective on April 1st. Any family that currently has a 26-week authorization will be honored. So it will be implemented going forward. So if your 26-week authorization expires, it will be looked at to see if you have a service need that qualifies. So that would include working, education, higher education, training program. And we have been in communication with our child care resource and referral agencies, along with all of our contracted providers who manage child care financial assistance. So great. So Eugenia has put in information about that new policy change. So I had a lot of updates, Amy. Sorry, before I got
all good.
We have a lot going on, even though we didn't have a board meeting. I want to spend just a couple minutes talking about the Interagency Task Force on Early Education and Childcare. First, I don't know if Lauren Cook is on, but we had a really terrific launch event at Ellis, Early Learning, beautiful setting for it. And for those of you who've been following the work of the task force, I know the secretary was here in February to talk a little bit about the work. The purpose of that task force was really to think about how all of state government should be thinking about early childhood education. So the governor strongly believes that childcare and early education is really critical to the state's economy, to the future of the students, our young learners, as well as those who are in K-12, and that if we want to be competitive as a Commonwealth, so we want to keep people here, we want to keep businesses here, we want people to come to Massachusetts and make their homes here, to live here, to work here, and to play here, that a strong education system, starting with childcare and early education, is going to be really important to that. So in addition to the incredible investments that the governor has been making at EEC and has proposed again for this year, and the work underway at our agency to continue the Commonwealth Cares for Children program, to look at rates, to expand childcare financial assistance, that it's going to take more than just the Department of Early Education and Care to really deliver on the promise of childcare and early education. So a year ago, she created a new task force, really to have all the other state agencies think about what they could do to help early education and care. It's a 3-year task force, and the event last week was the release of our year 1 report. So what did we learn in the first year, and what are our recommendations for going forward? So many of you, so thank you so much, participated in one of the 14 listening sessions that we held last summer. And the recommendations that are included in the year 1 report, that Eugenia already linked to in the chat, really reflect what we heard from those who participated in the learning sessions. And I'm going to give highlights of a few. But I also want to say that, at a pretty dark and challenging time for all of us, and for those of us in the public sector, last week felt like a real bright spot. It felt like Massachusetts coming together across state government, strong and bonded, and playing our game in light of some really difficult and challenging messages and actions that are being taken at the federal level. So it was a moment to kind of celebrate, to take a breath and to celebrate some of the work. What has been so incredible for me during this task force process is that we have built new advocates across state government around early education and care. There are so many secretariats and leaders across state government who might not, before this task force, have really known about the power and the benefits and the needs of the early education and care sector. And over the past year, everyone on that task force has shown up to really understand and bring their best selves. So we had representatives from our labor and workforce development, from economic development, and from education. So the secretaries for those 3 were our co-chairs. But we also had representation from the Department of Energy, the Secretariat for Energy and Environment, for Technology Services, for Administration and Finance, for Health and Human Services, for Public Safety, for Transportation, and for Housing. So every single one of the governor's top leaders assigned top people in their agencies to come and work together to say, what can we do to support early education and care? So For example, when we're building new housing, can we also be thinking about putting childcare on site? Or can we make some of our new housing or existing housing developments more friendly to family childcare? And how do we work together to do that? Can we make sure that children with special education needs who are in our community-based programs are getting the special education services they need in the settings in which their families have chosen to enroll them? Can we treat childcare programs like schools when we're thinking about the roads and the safety around the schools? Can we provide early educators with the same kind of discounts at Staples or at museums that our K-12 teachers have access to? How do we make sure that our public outdoor places are accessible for our childcare and early education programs, and that any resources we have about the environment and outdoors are brought to resources to our early education and care programs? We're working with the Veterans Administration to think about better services for childcare for our returning veterans. And then we're working with our Health and Human Services Department to think about what we heard from folks at those listening sessions about access to healthcare and potentially access to retirement plans that would be affordable for our early education and care programs. And we have also, some of the most important partnerships that are really underway already have started with our workforce system, whether it's brand new apprenticeship programs across the Commonwealth for early educators, changes in higher education to make it more accessible. And finally, thinking about our childcare and early education programs as small businesses. And as we think about the resources that are available through our Executive Office of Economic Development for any small business, how can we make sure that childcare and early education programs have access to those resources, and that those resources are designed in a way that makes sense for the early education and childcare sector? So I encourage you, there are 31 actionable recommendations included, and we worked very hard with our partners across state government over the last year to make sure that everyone had a piece to work on during this next 2 years of the task force. So a friend of mine said to me when this task force got started, so all of those other agencies are going to be in your business at EEC? And I said, no, we're going to be in their business. And I really think that is how, I have been really honored by the way my colleagues across state government have shown up for childcare and early education, like deeply now understand and care about the issues and themselves have become advocates. And so they are back at their agencies thinking about whether it's our technology agency thinking about digital inclusion or better broadband. Childcare is high up on the agenda for leaders across state government for whom childcare was recognized as something important, but they might not have seen it as part of their business and responsibility too. So thank you to everyone who participated. Please take a look at that report. We're going to roll up our sleeves now and continue the work. There will be opportunities for new recommendations, but we're going to really dig into those 31 recommendations. We have a good structure to make sure that they don't just sit on a shelf and get dusty, but actually get executed on. And so, Amy, I think I'll stop there. And if you have any sharing the report. And at the event, we had an opportunity, our chairman from the Board of Early Education and Care, Paul Belcito, moderated a panel that included the Secretaries of Education, Pat Tutwiler, the Secretary of Labor and Workforce Development, Lauren Jones, and the Secretary of Economic Development, Yvonne Howe, who have become leading advocates for childcare. And recognizing that it's the most important investment we can make. And if you want to hear the panel discussion, probably Eugenia already already linked to that as well. So we are excited about getting to work, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity soon after the release of the report to share a little bit. So I'm sorry that was a lot of words, but we are pretty excited about the work and the brand new partnerships that have blossomed across state government that are going to support our sector to really be elevated and to have access to the resources they need.
Commissioner, thank you so much. Just want to highlight, we strategies messed up a bit for our Portuguese speakers. We did not confirm Excel to add that language. We promoted it, but we didn't connect with Julian, so we apologize for that. Neri added that to the chat. So just wanted to say that out loud. There was a question about the licensing for family childcare. We know from 10 to where that is. So if you could maybe say a word about that. Lots of love and appreciation for you in the chat. And just thinking about this the beauty of the interagency collaboration. So maybe say a word about the licensing and our website. Someone messaged me that our website is down. Our website should be up. It's redone, refreshed. So if you go to our homepage and the 930, all the pages have been updated. So Heidi, maybe check again and see if it works. But Commissioner, back to you for the
Update.
10 to 12.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or wherever we go. So
yes.
I first want to recognize that I know there are a lot of family child care providers who are very anxious to be able to grow their businesses, and we are excited to support you in that. It is a great way for us to be able to expand access quickly. What the legislature did was basically remove the 10 group size cap from the rules governing the agency. But in order for us to implement an increase, whether it's to 12 or something else, we need to create, back to the beginning of the meeting, brand new regulations, brand new policies. We need to update our IT system. We need to understand what the ratios and groups, what it would look like, how many infants and toddlers you could have. And so there are a lot of pieces that have to get resolved before we can simply move from 10 to 12 or whatever the number is. So we are in the middle of a revision to our child care licensing regulations. If you are interested in being part of that process, please be in touch with Eugenia. She'll know how to connect you in. But changing the child care regulations will take some time. And even if we just took on this one small piece, there still has to be a very thorough process of new regulations, new policies, training for our staff, information and training for external partners. So I know it seems like a fairly simple change if you were to just say go from 10 to 12, but everything governing our family childcare, from the amount of space you need to the mix of age groups, has to be considered before we can make that change. And we are in that process right now. So I appreciate your patience, and I recognize how eager you are, for those of you who have the space and the interest in doing it, to see us be able to move forward. And we will be moving it as quickly as we can, but sometimes state government moves slower than everyone would like.
There was a question from Don Holly about what this group can now do to help moving forward. So it sounds like read the report, review the recommendations, and then what do next steps look like?
Oh, it's a great question. And I meant to say, each of the recommendations are very unique. Sometimes it requires 2 agencies to work together. Sometimes it requires 6 agencies to work together. So we are going to be seeking stakeholder engagement kind of at the different recommendation level. So I'm going to suggest everyone take a look at the report, and if there's a particular area that folks are interested in working on, Amy, maybe you could work with us to help organize folks who want to work on housing and childcare or outdoor preschools, or hopefully the sort of reduced cost for early educators is something we can move more quickly. But you can see some of the recommendations are going to be like long and big and complicated. We might want feedback there. Some could be done much more quickly. So
Right.
if there are folks who are particularly interested in different aspects of the recommendations, I think we'd be interested in your input and feedback.
And maybe we could plan a 9:30 call, kind of with the 9:30 call community, not necessarily with EEC, to go through it, review them, get some feedback, and invite you back anytime. And just also want to acknowledge all the members of the EEC team who joined us on the 9:30 call today and every day. It's so great to have you here. And as you'll talk about tomorrow, like one of the hallmarks of this call has been this kind of bringing together of policymakers. We did it during the pandemic when we were writing regulations for opening up childcare in a global pandemic, and
Right.
continue to do it today. As we know, policy is being developed and is being passed in the legislature and created by the board of early education and care. So we are grateful for all the ways that we can influence and impact and infiltrate, I will say, the work that's happening in government. If you haven't had a chance yet, please add some love and appreciation in the chat for the commissioner. Please join us in person or Zoom tomorrow. We know how to throw a party here at Strategies for Children, so we're excited to celebrate 5 years tomorrow. Also, join me in thanking Excel Linguistics. Hopefully, Amy and I spoke slowly enough so that it made sense. We know some of it is very wonky as well, some of the language, so that can be tricky in translation. So everyone have a wonderful day. The sun is shining in Eastern Massachusetts. Hopefully it's shining where you are. Thank you to the commissioner for joining us. We're so grateful to have you here once a month, and we will see you tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow for the anniversary. And for those who are interested, our next board meeting is April 9th in Westfield.
Great. So we'll see you soon after that as well.
All right.
Take care.